is Intel actually screwed? Because obviously right now, as you guys know, I have an Intel GPU in my computer at the moment, the A770 16 gigabyte. So does Intel have a chance?
Up internet, that feels weird to say. I'm taking Gordon's line. So Gordon from PC World is joining, but I think the topic today is specifically going to be a discussion on ARC and ARC positioning, because RTX 4060 Ti came out while we've been here. RX 7600, pretty negative, I think, for the most part, at least on our end.
It just makes Intel look even better when everybody else is garbage.
ARC is suddenly becoming very interesting.
Be willing to try Intel if they had something in the high end. Me too. They need something as fast as at least a 3080 for me to want to stick with it long term. Especially considering, like, did you guys watch the video that I did on the A770? So like, it doesn't perform as fast as the 6700, and it also draws more power too. So like, if they were to just pump more power into an ARC card, it's gonna be cooking. Might draw as much power as like a 4090 to get to the power of like a 3080 level performance. They have to change the architecture.
We have gotten from the original launch, which was, right, I mean, it's the ugliest GPU launch I think we've probably seen in a long, long time. A lot of people thought it was dead.
Yeah.
Things didn't work, drivers didn't work, games didn't work.
Software was terrible.
Performance was subpar.
Let Intel cook. Let them cook.
Yeah.
You know, they've iterated on drivers, and now, I don't know, it's hard to tell because I can only go off comments that we've seen. We've done our own testing because we do a driver update on the card and test it every few months.
They do really good. PC World does really good videos on the ARC cards. They really keep us updated in the state of it. And when I'm doing my 30-day challenge on the ARC card, I'm gonna track how many updates they were, because something that's genuinely scary about ARC, and I don't know how often other companies do update their drivers. I don't keep track of that. But the last update was at around the beginning of May. Does that sound like a long time? Like, I think drivers usually come out maybe every other week on NVIDIA, AMD. That's a long time. I think there's been beta drivers. What I think about the ARC drivers like taking so long, maybe they're working on Battle Mage right now and they're kind of caught up.
So back to the question. A750 in particular, I was really excited when I saw the price drops recently because I knew this video was coming up, and it totally changed my outlook on how to. I originally pitched we talked about.
It's not a bad deal at like what, $250.
Pitched the idea, and it was the 4060 Ti and the 7600 are coming up. I thought the answer to this is Intel screwed might be they're kind of screwed right now because these two companies are entering the more affordable class finally.
Right.
And then they totally fumbled the ball, in my opinion, and Intel drops its price. Where an A750 is like $200 on Newegg right now.
ARC has to be sitting here and almost being like the sunken cost thing. Like they have to turn a profit at some point or something. Yeah, Battle Mage is probably gonna be more expensive too.
So, I mean, how does that, how do you reconcile the general, let's call it unpredictability of Intel's drivers and games? Can you reconcile that now with the price?
Yeah, I think so. I definitely, everybody that seems to have ARC, they're pretty happy for the price performance ratio. And at that segment,
Steve is just like tech Jesus, dude. Like he just like whips his hair. Do you see this?
Yeah, everybody that
say it just whips his hair. He's just Jesus.
At that segment is the one that's been really the most ignored for the last 3 years. Really, I would think most people are like, yeah, honestly, you could buy ARC. There's some people that they're always going to want NVIDIA because, you know, NVIDIA is the gold standard for GPUs, but
NVIDIA is NVIDIA.
You know, for somebody who's really looking for value, you're not going to really get that from NVIDIA. I know we have 4060 Ti. You reviewed it. We've reviewed it. It wasn't exactly.
I didn't get to check that most recent stream you did, but I saw a top comment where they were quoting you, and you said something like 4060 Ti, 3060 Ti, same thing, whatever.
Yeah, I was.
You know the best thing about the 4060 Ti is that it drove down the price of the 3060 Ti. Like, you can get them news still. But you can now get 3060 Ti's, which are not far behind the price of a the performance of a 3070. Right? It looks like $270.
It was a disappointing card, right? Because the performance didn't go up for generation. Pricing is not.
I was just like, will there be a console that's superior to a PC? I mean, technically, every console on launch, at least for, I don't know, about 3 to 4 years after their launch, they're usually better than PCs at the same price. But, I mean, they have their advantages and disadvantages. Like, you get a console if you only want a game. It's the best value if you only want a game. It's easiest to set up and everything. But you get a PC if you want to do more than just game. And I think a lot of people want to do more than just game. It's just a lot of people are a little short-sighted with their buying decisions. Dude, like, ever since I got a PC, I've been able to edit videos. And look where this is now.
Okay, I guess.
Is it fair? So we basically dismissed NVIDIA's argument of but DLSS 3. We gave our reasons in the review. I won't bother going through them again. Is it fair to do that? Do you think that as reviewers,
DLSS 3 does not carry the product.
Like 4060 Ti, where it just doesn't generationally improve, is it unfair to dismiss their but DLSS 3?
I mean, I'm always in interest of having more data because you let people.
I want to try DLSS 3 at some point,
at the same time, DLSS 3 for a card that is really a 1080p card, the argument is you're going to suffer image quality concerns, and I think it is very fair. And I think the real problem for me for 4060 Ti, I'm more negative on it than I expected, is because there's just so much more choice.
I feel like you
had a $400 price point.
At times retain neutrality a little bit better maybe than I do, where
this is like, they're not really talking about Intel right now, but still interesting. I saw in the comments FSR is as good as DLSS, and what's up, Black Raven? Is it as good as DLSS? From my experience, no, it isn't. Like, I can see the visual difference usually in things like with like small like textures, like if it's like a chain link fence in a game or something, or like a grate or something, like there's a bunch of like lines close together, they're thin. Usually FSR like really messes that up. It looks like this wavy weirdness, but DLSS somehow makes that work with the deep learning. And I don't think that's something you can fix with FSR because it doesn't have any kind of deep learning or AI based on it. So FSR is just worse for that. But XeSS actually does fix those problems as well. But it's only really good on Intel GPUs.
I will start arguing on principle if I think the principle pisses me off enough. And I feel like you anchor a little bit better in neutrality. But the fact that you were bothered by the 4060 Ti sent a pretty clear signal to me of like, okay, they actually really did screw this up.
Yeah, because it's just like, I mean, for it to be single-digit performance over 3060 Ti was like...
I want to point out this too. So they are talking about 4060 Ti. Daniel Owen just posted a video. Both the 7600 and 4060 Ti were kind of garbage. Okay, but it's like, which one was worse? Well, the 4060 Ti, obviously. About 50% more expensive than the 7600. On average, it's about 20 to 40% faster. You do not get that performance, which makes it not worth an upgrade whatsoever. And the fact that it drops off so much at higher resolutions is just like another nail in the coffin.
Which is a bummer, right? Because you had higher expectations from the other cards in the higher end of the spectrum. And to me, the real hard part for 4060 Ti is there's just so much more choices.
Getting ARC will help us all in the end. Yeah, but also we can't treat ARC like a charity. I mean, they have to deliver something that people actually want to buy. There isn't enough people out there that have enough disposable income to buy a GPU from a competing brand that is objectively worse than the competition to support them. I'm saying it like it is. Okay, it's like not all of us are people that would do something like that. In fact, I was actually gonna buy an ARC GPU for the channel, but then Brian actually reached out to me to borrow one. So before I bought it, I was actually about to click the trigger and he sent it to me. So just people. And we have our money and we want to spend it on what is going to be the best experience.
3060 Ti still out there. There's Radeons, older generation Radeons that are faster for a little bit more money.
67 XT is great value if it's still around. What about the 7600? Does that, how does that affect, let's ignore NVIDIA, how does that affect Intel? A770, A750, so you've got a, what, $270 now, $7600. Versus a $200 750 and a whatever.
Here's my 6700, by the way.
You know, I think they probably helped the card by lowering the price, right? Because not a fantastic, but I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. I still think like
I just want to see competition.
About our show, like generally, yeah, honestly, if you bought a 3060 Ti or 4060 Ti.
Sorry, I'm just living on the edge, guys. I actually hear it like sometimes in my sleep. Like I hear this thing, and I have it sitting on my dresser, and I hear it ticking sometimes. So I just wanted to point that out, but I'm not scared, right?
Didn't make that much of a difference. There's still times when you would want a 4060 because newer. You have AV1, you have the newer NVENC.
You're a CUDA user.
You're a
you
CUDA
rely
user.
on it.
There are legitimate cutouts, but for the vast majority of just general gamers, it was kind of a meh launch, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think the hard part of all this is, I know reality is getting a little bit back to the Intel screwed. Is that I bet in a year when we see the numbers from JPR, NVIDIA, which had 75% market share, their market share will be 74%. You know, it won't even move. It won't. It's like it's within the margin of error at that point.
Right.
What
and
was,
that was, do you know David
what was
Cantor?
bro on?
Yes.
Yeah. I had an interesting
That's when
conversation with him many years ago when Intel Arc was really just becoming a topic. And I said to David, you know, everybody's really skeptical
he saw
of
God.
this. And, but at the same time, if anyone can do it, it's probably going to be Intel. And what do you think Intel needs to do to not kill the project? And for those who don't know, David Cantor is,
This is something I'm so scared about though, is like, since Arc is a new product and it hasn't been selling that well, literally giving away free A7s 50s in Japan if you buy a 4090, I'm scared that they could cut the product. And people want I would think Intel's enough of a company that has enough morals to support their products, you know, as long as people would actually use them. It's another reason why you wouldn't buy an Arc. If that card is going to die, like they're not going to support it any longer with driver updates or something, say in like 2 to 3 years, because they dropped Arc as a team because it wasn't profitable. That's what's scary. Like, graphics cards are expensive enough to be thought of as an investment.
greatly respect his
I can't talk about
knowledge. He's a
ketamine?
brilliant analyst.
Oof.
Very knowledgeable on silicon. And his answer was, look, Steve, Intel doesn't need to be first. They only need to be second. He said they only have to take market share from AMD. They don't necessarily have to take it from NVIDIA.
And that's why Intel is trying to offer better ray tracing performance and a better upscaler. Because I know AMD can't do that because AMD is more focused on making their stuff open source. But as AMD maybe transitions to working more on AI, they might make a better upscaler. Who knows?
I thought that was an interesting answer. And
Yeah, you might have
think
wasted your money. That's what's scary about
where this
Intel.
battle is playing out. If we have A750, A770, we've got 3 vendors. Is it a false?
That's one of the reasons why it's hard to just say, hey, buy an Intel card. Seriously, like, that's telling people what to do with their money. They don't have the history of a company like AMD, the bomb, you know? That they don't have that.
It's not a dichotomy because there's 3 of them, but a false trichotomy, is that a thing? I don't know. I'm not an English major. But is it a false choice to say Intel, AMD, NVIDIA? Is it actually just Intel, AMD, and then if you have more money, you're NVIDIA?
Yeah, I agree.
I agree wholeheartedly. NVIDIA has the top end. If you're spending the most, you want to get the best. So NVIDIA wins there. They have the best like support across all apps, all software. Best ray tracing performance, best upscaler. They have frame generation. They have the most integration into games. A lot of people will say the best drivers. I don't really think it's that far off from AMD nowadays, but
You will disagree. You will piss and moan in
69
the
appears
comments
nice.
all day.
oh
You will
god,
cry about it, scream about it, go on Twitter and Reddit, no, and then you go to buy your NVIDIA card. And they know that. They know you will go and buy them. I know you're going to say, oh, but I've seen numbers that the cards aren't selling, they're backing up. In the end, the one thing we don't know is it backing up for everybody. And having seen NVIDIA, and when you're the number
I think in general too, just people aren't buying cards right now. And he's speaking straight facts. Like, as much as people bitch and complain online, still go and buy NVIDIA almost every single time. It's sad, but it's true. They still have the leading market share, even though it seems like they're a little bit scared of 6000 series from AMD. Eventually that stock's gonna dry up, and then NVIDIA will be on top again. Like, that's just exactly how it'll go.
And people associate gaming with NVIDIA. It is really, really hard to get people to change minds. And Adam actually had a really good point, because
Technically, AMD is the best value for gaming.
before even 4060 Ti came out, you had some Radeons that were way better for value and performance. Nobody bought them.
Sure.
Did
yeah.
not change market
Yeah.
share because they want NVIDIA.
See, this is one of the sad things. Like, do you guys remember the RX 480, RX 580? Some of the best cards from AMD ever. Where do these stack up on the Steam hardware survey? How far down is this? They're all the way down here at 1% of the market. The most popular card that AMD has released in recent history is only 1% of the market share. Whereas the card that it directly competed with in that generation, the GTX 1060, is at about 5% right now. Yeah, the Steam hardware survey isn't 100% reliable, but it gives you a good idea. And I'd be interested if I could somehow, like, maybe it's out there somewhere, to trace all the way back to when these cards actually came out and then see how they compared back when they dropped. How much market share did a 580 have at that time? So what does that say for Intel?
It didn't matter that Ryzen was kicking the ass of Core all day. No one would buy AMD because, you know what? Intel has always worked for me. It's reliable. It's safe.
It's hard to break
I'm
that.
going to buy this 7700K for $360.
Right.
Okay. You know.
I think it's really...
That is so true. So, do you guys remember when Ryzen released productivity-wise, gaming-wise was not matching Intel. Productivity-wise, offering more cores at a lower price was destroying NVIDIA, and then not NVIDIA, Intel on the CPU market. It still took them all the way until 5000 series before they were a actual threat to with like the market share on the consumer productivity CPUs.
It's hard to break that, where a lot of people in the enthusiast audience, the segment we cover, it's easy to get tunnel visioned on. You forget that you may be more aware of your options and maybe more willing to experiment with options than the greater market. People who don't know who either of us are and walk into Best Buy. What is it you call them? Blue shirts?
Blue shirts, yeah. I have a Best Buy shirt. Bought for Halloween. I want to go into one day. So I walk around the store
Wearing it?
giving
I
advice.
look forward to bailing you out of jail.
Oh, I know. Could you like...
We should
People
do
have done that, by the way, and they got kicked out. They got kicked out by security. They walk in with a Best Buy shirt and try to act like they're an employee. He probably knows way more about computer components than any Best Buy employee does.
Adam, can we do that? Can we follow Gordon into a Best Buy?
Yes.
Can we get him arrested?
Yes.
Okay.
You think
Can
I
we
would
get him
notice?
arrested?
They'd go like,
That you got arrested?
hey, so who's the new guy? I don't know. Seems kind of old, doesn't he?
Must be from corporate.
Yeah, it must be from corporate.
Everyone better be on their best behavior.
It's probably like that boss program where they have an exec come in like,
Hello,
hello,
fellows."
fellows, high schoolers.
So yeah, when you walk into a Best Buy and you're talking about people who don't really have any of the enthusiast mindset.
Yeah.
A lot of our concerns don't present themselves, and it does just become, well, Intel's always worked well for me. And it probably, I think you can make this argument maybe for airlines, cars, like any industry where you're spending a good amount of money on a thing.
Right.
And
You want something reliable. Intel, but AMD, that's why why AMD needs to take market share from NVIDIA right now at their best opportunity. Because once you get people on your cards and realize, hey, they're actually good, then you can start to build up this reliability, this confidence that when people buy your products, they're going to be happy with it. But right now, like AMD doesn't have that. And Intel's going to struggle to get that too, especially because they actually aren't reliable right now. But I will like to say I've been streaming on the Art card this whole time, and it has been going well. So I'm glad we haven't crashed. I will say that.
last time it worked fine. Like maybe there's something better, but if it works fine and it's expensive,
Right.
maybe they just stick with it.
I mean, and AMD's perfect example
Yeah,
because
well, AMD
Radeon
has-
is giving just
AMD does
so
that all
much
their
more
software,
performance, so
the
much more
AI
value
stuff.
for the money. Their numbers actually went down
Right.
because Intel's eating into AMD market share.
Where was this? Like, where was this deal? Because this is crazy. This is as much as technically what a 6600 costs, but decently faster than it. And has AV1 encoding. Fire sale to steal some market share away from the 7600, seeing that the 7600 was a bad deal. They're like, hey, even if we're not even going to profit on these cars that are sold, we need to sell 750s right now. I don't
Need
blame
to
them.
launch a high-end product. Right now they have an A380, which kind of disregard it, but it is a low-end option.
A
the
380,
more
like
relevant
if you want a cheap price, then yeah. But if you could get a 750 for $200, that makes the A380 at $140 just like not even reasonable. That card is so much slower.
A750, their high end is kind of mid range for
I
everyone
know, but
else.
it would also cost $60 less than $70 less than the 7600.
Do they need a 4090 or 7900 XTX competitor for the customer for performance, or for call it mind share
Right.
on the market?
Yeah, they
I
kind of are
would
bad
say
value.
no. You know, and I would actually, interestingly, I think we thought AMD should have gone higher to meet NVIDIA with 4090 at the time. Realistically, I don't think Intel's in any position to try to fight with a 4090 class card.
No
Because
way.
that card is just so beyond everybody and also so expensive.
It's actually insane. Like if you look at
The 4090 is legitimately a really good card. The only good thing coming out of this generation right now is the 4090. I'm saying that with full confidence. The second closest decent thing is a 4070 or maybe a 7900 XTX, but like again, the 4090, 7900 XTX, they're all over $1,000. They're good cards for the price, but they're like, who's buying it?
charts, the gap between a 4090 and a 4080 and an XTX in say a 40.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're going to have to completely slash their margins. So Brad says, I don't see how Intel is going to have a future in this. They need to increase some cards with incredibly small profits or whatever to build a customer base. They just need to get people on it. Yeah, I agree. The same thing that AMD needs to do. They just need to get people on it, even if they do take a hit to their margins right now. You can't afford to increase margins when nobody's buying your product. The only company that is in a position to do that is NVIDIA right now. People are still buying their products, even though their margins are at like 70% right now. And those margins, I think, account for like being able to make drivers and stuff in the future. Like you have to pay for that.
Crazy this time.
Yeah, I don't think they have to, and I don't think it would work because they would have to make, because their brand isn't as valuable as NVIDIA's brand still. It's not trusted. So they would have to give you more performance than a 4090 for less money. I mean, that's just like setting you up for failure.
Yeah.
So I think they need to have
AMD
a
has like a
solid
50%
mid-range
margin.
card. They can
Usually
still
on
play
the
against
cards.
the prices for NVIDIA and AMD. Probably less for AMD because they might be more competitive with AMD than NVIDIA.
But that might be just on their
I think
chips that they
just-
sell
can-
to their
They can pick
AIBs.
their victories where they can and just kind of build up the trust in Intel because it's
Yeah.
still not there. I mean, hell, it's 1,000% better than at launch.
Right.
Because honestly, right now,
Right.
if you went out and bought an A750 for $200, for most people, it's going to run fine. You'll be able to play the games you want to play.
And for launch, you can't divide by zero. So like,
Yes.
there's a lot of instances it just was broken, or especially pre-launch review stuff where
I completely agree. It's like the average person buys it, you're honestly not going to have a problem. You know, the problem is that it's not better than the other brands on reliability. But most people aren't going to have a problem. And any problems that I had with crashes on the Intel card, like all I had to do was restart the game, like, and it was fine. Didn't have to worry about it. I don't think that many people care about it. They're like, oh, my game crashed. Okay, I'll just click on it again. Like, seriously, it's that simple.
games that don't launch, you got black screen problems, you have software.
Yeah, but yeah, I agree. Like Intel's not out there enough that people are even going to consider it yet.
That is not only
People are only just starting to consider AMD cards.
sometimes built incompetently with no awareness of how a person interacts with a computer, but also it's just broken. And they've fixed a lot of that. So like to Intel's credit, it's actually, and we keep commenting on this in the NVIDIA and AMD stuff, do you feel, so how do you feel about this statement? One of the comments we've been making is that when the companies are close, let's say a 7600 is like right next to a 770, whatever.
Okay.
When they're close, I feel like there's more gas in the tank for Intel to boost that performance than especially NVIDIA and maybe AMD in the form of drivers. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I agree because they
Yeah.
keep. I mean, again, like you said, you're starting at zero. every improvement is better. It's like, okay, well, you know, a D- is still better than an F. So there's, I mean, that's why, because it's hard.
Passing grade.
It's hard not to make that joke at Intel's expense because it launched so poorly. But at the point they're at now, everything's actually pretty good, decent, and there's still room for improvement. right?
So my one of the, I think, more interesting questions for you. You've been in the industry a while. You have a lot of experience reporting on these companies. Here's what I'm worried about.
Was bro looking for somewhere to sit when there's like 30 chairs open?
And every now and then you look at what they're doing, and it's like, could you please just shut up and just let the product sell itself, stop making it worse, and just get your foot out of your mouth. Intel right now, and I feel like Intel has always done pretty well with this. They're keeping a more traditional corporate, not trying to make a rock star out of the product or the people, and they're staying kind of quiet.
I don't think they, after that launch and the build up to this launch, and
It's actually, I don't know if you can hear it, but it's actually NVIDIA and AMD crying in the background right now.
they're crying about the prices right
Yeah.
now. So I don't think it's in Intel's right now with the nature that they're not going to. I think they've realized we got to keep our head down, keep giving better products. The card sells themselves through the word of mouth, and they don't really need to market any of that. And trying to go out of there and try to be clever, it's probably going to backfire at this point.
I agree with this. Intel definitely takes a lot more of a professional side to their marketing. If you saw, like, AMD can be pretty petty when it comes down to their stuff. Seriously, there were, like, you know, the melting power connectors and the higher wattage on the 4090. When they announced the 7900 XTX, one of their main marketing points was like, oh, it's 8-pin connectors. Oh boy, it's the same as it's always been.
On the glue.
Other than the glue, but I mean, you know, there's arguments that it was for engineer, but I mean,
Right.
you know, they got a little frisky with Apple for a while, making fun of Apple when Apple split. But honestly,
Yeah.
I thought it was okay because, you know, when they have a breakup as bad as that, it was okay. But they generally,
The NVIDIA
they
Apple
just
thing.
don't like to be that frisky. So I don't think they're going to do it with Arc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, maybe if it got to the point where, like, they could legitimately give you 4090
Ryzen's been good,
performance
though.
for $800.
I hope they don't try to play to the enthusiast crowd. It's a smaller audience.
And there's something.
This is Shelly. And remember, Shelly for later. Is I think Intel is taking the wrong angle. Like, I know NVIDIA has the market share, but when they did their stuff and they introduced the 770 mainly, and they were showing how it compared to the RTX 3060. And they were going after NVIDIA because the 3060 was overpriced at the time. So they're like, oh, well, we're faster than that card, but we're cheaper. So that was a decent marketing position, but their real competition is AMD because people are just gonna buy NVIDIA. So you have to try to start from taking market share from AMD and put actually pressure on AMD, surprisingly, even though they don't have as much market share. They just, like, with their marketing, it was already a little goofy. They just straight up ignored AMD. It's like the 6600 XT didn't exist. And that card was already going for $250 and was about as fast as the 770 at $350 or $400 or whatever they're pricing it at.
To be said for not being in the headlines.
That's true.
Because the only thing people remembered
Right.
was when the A770 came out. Planes started, like, smacking on the runway. There's flames coming out to the engines.
Is petty marking a bad idea, though? Wake up, gamers. Hey. It can be or it can't be. It depends how bad whatever they're talking about is. Like, how uniform is the opinion against it. Then you can for sure be petty and you know it's going to be successful. But it could also draw buzz to the company and then build them a negative reputation. Like, hey, they're just clout chasing. It also makes you look a little immature.
People were saying, oh my God, I want to get off this plane. And it was the ugliest thing ever. And that's really probably what is still in a lot of people's minds.
Right.
And what we have today with ARC is a really competitive
What's up, gamers?
GPU, giving value to people in that price range. How the hell do you get people to pay attention to you now? All they remember is your shitty launch. So how
First
do you...
impressions, Matt.
I don't know what we can do about this. Her attacks are too strong.
Matter a lot. Yeah.
So do you, like, go out and you do something just to get people to talk about your product?
I actually just spoke to someone from Intel about this. Probably your contact as well, Ben. The reason I messaged him was because it was following the publication of the 7600 and the 4060 Ti reviews. And I messaged him and I said, hey, please please get through to your marketing team that you guys need to just like keep doing what you're doing, which is, you probably get these too, but they'll send out these small emails of, hey, we updated the drivers, here's what changed. And that's it. They give you some percentages, they tell you the games, and they back off. And if you want to cover it, great. If you think it's interesting, great. But they're not here trying to...
I like that approach. It's like the same approach. You know, like some of the best devs, like game developers on the planet, it's like Riot, you know? Like Riot just keeps putting out really good games. I hope they don't go downhill. I mean, I don't play their games personally, but from what I've heard, their games consistently are good. It's like how Riot literally just shuts up. They do not talk. And they make their games, they hunker down, they announce it, and they just don't talk. And then it releases and everybody loves it. But it almost feels like if you so heavily are marketing towards people and you're constantly telling them every single thing you're doing, getting you hyped up for something that may or may not happen, and then you set all these expectations and then you consistently let people down. Look at Blizzard right now. Look at Activision. That's what the position they're in. So if you look at a company like Intel, it kind of gives me more hope, but it also makes me scared at the same time. But they are just hunkering down. They're not talking. They're just working right now. And they're going to make the best product they possibly can. And they don't want to set our expectations too high. But the reason that scares me is because we don't even know if this thing's going to be canceled. Because there has been a lot of rumors that it is canceled.
Like sell it to you as a reviewer.
So I like that Intel is doing
I think that's a good approach where it allows the story to develop on its own organically without this like weird corporate influence that can start to backfire and create, as we talked about in your video, expectations that can't become reality.
Right.
So,
but sometimes the reason why people post stupid ass videos on TikTok, doing dumbass things, walking into a Best Buy trying to pretend you work there,
he saw that.
Is because now people are talking about you. So I honestly, you do wonder if like you do something stupid just to get in the news, is it worth it? Because, you know, again, it's really hard to...
See, it's a little interesting too, is like NVIDIA did really something stupid with the 4060 Ti, but that press is negative because it's not just like something that doesn't affect anybody. It's, oh, that's funny, it gets you in the news. But like the 4060 Ti is genuinely a bad product and nobody's gonna buy it and they're gonna lose money on that.
You're breaking to somebody just buying an NVIDIA card because that's what they've always bought.
So is it AMD that's walking into the Best Buy or NVIDIA?
I think it'd probably be maybe Intel, and you dress up and they try to like, I don't know, because I just
because
feel like
it's blue.
Because you want to. I mean, the sad thing about today's world is, if you're not in the headlines, people are not thinking about you, and all they can remember is the bad publicity. I think a lot of people covered it well enough.
Create more bad publicity.
It's a crappy world.
Because if your option is no publicity or recent bad publicity,
it could be a little scary though.
I guess you choose that one.
They say that
it's either like, oh, they're choosing not to show us the news to not set expectations, or they genuinely don't have news.
Except for actual bad publicity. But I do wonder how in the world does Intel get itself into the mind of people? But everybody knows it's there, but I don't know.
Okay, he did just say something. He said everybody knows Intel's in the market. I don't know if that's true. The average person, I don't think know Intel really exists in the GPU market. I don't even think the average person that even goes to PC gaming knows what half the components in their computer is. It's like everybody in this chat is a nerd. I'm a nerd. You're a nerd. We're all nerds. We know about this stuff, but we're not average. We know way more than what people are. Like, I've talked to people even playing games and asked them, do you know what GPU is in your computer? I didn't ask it like that, but like, do you even know what a graphics card is? Most people don't even know. And then they're like, why does my game run so slow? It's like, because you're literally on Intel HD graphics. Every single one of those people doesn't even know what Intel is. If you get into like PC components, the first thing you learn about is NVIDIA. Like, oh, graphics cards, NVIDIA.
Yeah, this is like, I only care about value. You know, F you, NVIDIA. You know, what's up with the prices?
Hey, Gordon.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're in a restaurant.
That's HD.
I don't want to end up being arrested by the Best Buy police. What I'm saying is, you get in there and you talk on.
They're Best Buys in Taiwan.
You talk all your stuff, and then you end up buying the NVIDIA card.
So is Intel
But
screwed?
it's HD. It's supposed to be good.
right now.
If it has GTX in the name, it's supposed to be good. So I got a GT. That's like most of it, right? So like I got a GT 710. That should be a good card, right?
No, I'm leaning toward no, because
It was only $50. Like what a deal! I got Nvidia.
the other thing that's still in there, that's always going to hang over Intel's head, unfortunately, is Intel going to kill ARC?
Oh, okay,
Because
yeah.
to me, like honestly, if we didn't have all that series of like, oh my God, it's dead, it's dead, it's dead. If everybody felt like, yeah, you know, Intel's going to keep doing this, I feel okay about it.
Yeah.
But that to me, no matter what, that is always going to be there. Do you think that should bother people?
I think if the product makes sense right now, today, for your build, and it's not going to bother you if support vanishes. For example, if you're maybe a short-term user.
Exactly what we were just saying, like in chat and everything. Is like, if you don't worry about long-term support, maybe Intel is fine. Like I'm genuinely, I didn't mention that in the Intel video I made, but this could just, you know, it could just all disappear.
2-3 years, whatever. I don't think it should bother you if it's the right choice today, because who cares if it's not around in 5 years when you're not using it anymore. I think for someone who needs long-term support, it should bother them. I don't think you should subsidize or kickstart Intel and just buy it to help them out, because it's like, I guarantee you, Intel has more money than you and everyone else watching this combined. So it's like, they don't need the Kickstarter.
Except for Jensen who's watching. It's
Except
like,
for
not
Jensen.
Me, not me.
He's like, I'm a
maybe,
trillion
I don't know, maybe
Oh, I just realized that Intel isn't at the $1 trillion valuation, but Nvidia is. Isn't that crazy?
Pat Gelsinger's watching it. He's probably okay.
Does
But-
Nvidia deserve to be a $1 trillion company? I don't. In my opinion, I genuinely don't think so, because it seems like they chased whatever is this like crazy profit thing going on at the time. Like they chased mining and now they're chasing AI, like in recent memory, and they're really driving up their valuation. But how long can they keep chasing trends before their valuation is probably going to tank? Exactly what Sigma's saying.
For everyone buying the parts, you don't need to kickstart them and just buy it if you actually think it's worth buying. So
I mean, like, to me, like that's actually worth reiterating, because, you know, there was very public predictions that ARC was dead. You came out, your sources said it was no.
yeah,
I've talked to about 4 or 5 other really switched in journalists who said no as well. Generally, you think ARC is, you're still going with that? I mean, no.
I mean, going with that, maybe a little bit of a loaded phrase, but I think there is no evidence to suggest otherwise right now.
Okay.
Which is about, it's a weak answer, but I think it's the most accurate answer I can give.
Should be said in Intel's defense too is, even if you still have that, oh, I'm afraid they might kill it, which again, we're saying all evidence indicates that's not going to happen.
Like damn.
Intel in the past on products that they have canceled has been very stand-up, and you will get drivers for quite a while.
Typically, yeah.
Typically,
Okay.
generally,
now.
far beyond the length you should be using that product.
It's not
So I
like
think that's-
Google where they flip a switch and it's gone.
Yeah, oh my God.
So,
That's true. Google is just like, hey, goodbye Stadia. Hey, goodbye Google Glass.
that's your answer. Is Intel screwed? We're going to pack up and get out of here before security comes and finds us, because Gordon started screaming F you in the middle of a restaurant. So thank you all for watching. Go subscribe to PC World. They have a website as well. Check it all out.
Shout outs to
They've got
PC
a
World.
great
Shout
team
out
over
to
there.
Gamers Nexus.
And Gordon, thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Steve.
And we'll see you all next time. Okay.
Oh, you're right. I got too excited.
NVIDIA joined
Seriously, like Intel, I would say, has a chance. And Steve was kind of saying at the end here, where it's like, oh, you don't need to Kickstarter them. They have the money. You don't have to buy the product. Like if you think the product's good, then you could buy it if you want. Like genuinely. And that's how it is. And that's how I tried to phrase it in my video. It's not as good a value as the competition out there. Like AMD's offering better value at the same price or even lower price. And Nvidia is at least on par right now, actually. I didn't compare it in the video, but yeah, that it's hard to justify Intel at the moment. So if we're sitting here, if they actually want to be in this market, they actually want to be in the graphics card market. If we don't buy their product, they have to make a good product that we want to buy. So at the very least, if they want to be in it, then they should produce something better eventually. Shelly, if you don't want to be here, just leave. Don't like you sound like an internet troll, or I'll ban you from chat because we're discussing something here. I have enjoyed the Arc so far, and since the video, I haven't experienced any other crashes. At $340, it's not bad. But yeah, again, I brought it up earlier, but it genuinely kind of concerns me that Intel's last driver update was May 5th, and it seems like their biggest audience right now is probably people who want the content creation side of things, because they offered AV1 at a cheaper price and they have better AI cores than what AMD offers. Also, AMD is starting to release their budget cards that have that kind of stuff. So it's like, but I have overall enjoyed my time with Arc. They seriously made a competitive product, and sadly they've had to reduce the price quite a bit in order to hit like anywhere close to AMD. They chose to ignore AMD in their marketing. Shelly, like Shelly's going crazy. Like I kind of want to keep Shelly in chat just to like, cause it's funny. But I'm also just like, should I ban? Sounds a little mentally deranged, like a feral animal or something. As you obviously know, this was clipped from my stream. Obviously you saw chat the whole time, especially Shelly. If you're interested in joining for these streams to have these discussions live, I stream on Thursday nights at about 10:30 p.m. Eastern time on this channel on YouTube. So make sure to give it a shot. I'll see you guys in the next video. You guys have a good one. Peace.